So the other day while I was at work, I got a message on Discord from one of the guys in my server, and they sent me a link to this video from Elliot Merriman. Today, we're gonna try to recreate that sound, and to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm gonna give myself 3 hours to make this happen. I have my template here. I'm gonna do a quick run through of this for like the engine of everything. I'm using Modern and Massive 2. I'm actually only using the toms from this. For the cymbals, I'm actually routing the MIDI out to Get Good Drums Invasion. For the kick and snare, I'm using the new Aeon shells pack, which is basically just a trigger library. There's like no other effects on it, so they're supposed to be mix ready. And then the effects up here on the drums are just volume adjustments. For guitar and bass, I'll be using my GOC Vajra 8 for the guitar and the bass tone. I'll show you what the tone sounds like real quick. Here is guitar tone, Amperville synth, bass tone here. Then for the bass, Dark Glass Ultra Thall amp is like a pedal into that. So now we get into the riffs. I'm just gonna throw down a couple open notes here. All right, let's get a couple down for the bass. Another thing I saw him do there were some chugs. So I got the basic building blocks of our riff here. So now comes the fun part. What I think he's doing is hitting these harmonics, and that's what we'll spend most of our time doing here. What could go terribly wrong is if that is not what he's doing, this time crunch is going to get a lot tighter. Let's play around with some harmonics here. And it did sound like they were reversed, so I'm gonna go ahead and try that now and see how close that gets us. It's really subtle, but it does swell a little bit. Let's just go around the neck here and see if we can find some others that sound decent. So we can pitch these up, you know, octaves if we need to. So just for fun, let's see what an octave of this sounds like. Already, I think that's sounding a lot closer to the reference video. We do need to have is a couple more tools in our kind of riff making tool bag. The idea is starting to come in my head a little bit better now. I should start putting some drums down. We can start working with this, and then we can start figuring out offsets and that sort of thing. So already I can tell these are gonna have to be like way longer than they are right now. Okay, that sounded pretty cool. Let me put the next one in here. So I think a really nice touch to kind of like end where we're off right now. Just add a noise in there. We can play around with some effects on that later as well. So we need to copy all that over, but we're gonna replace these two with the sounds, the other two sounds that we made. All right, let's just see what this sounds like. I think we're gonna need to kind of spice it up a lot more. So let's start working on these effects a little bit, because that is why we are here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a frequency shifter in here. I'm gonna go for the kilohertz frequency shifter. We're gonna automate this. So let's just go like first like 50 hertz. Okay. Well, he certainly did something there. Let's crank it a little bit more. Let's kind of go crazy. Like 500s. I mean, it is certainly a cool sound. I have this reverb send that I can enable. Let's listen in the full context of the mix too, just to see. I mean, it sounds pretty cool. I want to play around with the pitch a little bit. Hey, 50 semitones up don't sound that bad. Okay, so check this out. I moved the frequency shifter before the amp. Which honestly I think is a lot closer. Let me try out a couple more frequencies here on the frequency shifter and see if I can get it a little bit closer. All right, I'm coming up on almost an hour in here. I've made a few changes to this. I've made a few changes to the rhythm and kind of swapped some stuff around. But these are the sounds we have so far. Harmonics that we did earlier, and then I've pitched two differently. So like on one side for this first one, we have one pitched up 2 octaves and then the other one was left normal. Automated these and I put this little rise in here so it kind of gives like a hammer-on effect. Now, all that being said, I do think I was wrong initially. I actually don't think it's a frequency shifter anymore. While I was watching one of the videos, he did mention Thall amp in here, so I might try to throw that on there and see if we can get the whammy effect to kind of do what we want. And then I'm gonna turn everything off in here. I think this pitch and this cleanse button is what we want. Maybe. I'm just gonna play around with this for a little while and see what comes of it. Whoa. I have the thicken on 100% right now, and that added some really nice texture to this note specifically. So let me put a bypass filter on Thall amp right here. Let's check this out in context. Yeah, that is really cool. So I noticed it's actually kind of the low pitch thing that's making this sound so cool, because I have that second one tuned an octave down. So I'm gonna try that over here as well. Just out of curiosity here, what happens when we turn the frequency shifter on over that. Sounds pretty crazy. Okay, a little bit more messing around. What I did do differently was some effects in the Thall amp. I actually turned the amplifier back on. So this is what it sounds like right now. When I listen to the reference track, there's this like really nice like swell, but we haven't quite gotten that swell in the note that we're looking for that really makes it sound like pretty, I guess. So here's another thing that we're gonna try that could sound pretty cool. What I have here is an EQ before the amp that has a really narrow Q on it. So basically we're gonna be boosting a very narrow band of frequencies into the distortion on the way in. And then we're gonna sweep up the frequency, which will kind of give us that nice swell that we're looking for. I'm interested to see what will happen when we turn back on some of the other effects. Before we get to kind of finishing nailing down this tone, let's focus on the riff for a little bit. I don't like how, we're kind of repeating two kinds of sounds here. And I think I'll actually try to replace this with one of these chugs here. what might be cool is if we take this out of the equation and then do one of these dead notes. You know what I'm kind of feeling here? Like I like the weird offset. If we take one of these swells back here and we bring that in, that could be cool. I got this other automation band up here. We can drag this down and have this swell from like a really low frequency up into that weird offset beat. Yeah. I think here on the end, it might be good to kind of give us a break from all that other stuff. Yeah, I'll just bring in the pick slide there. You know, the only other thing that we could try that we don't have on right now is the frequency shifter. Okay, I really like the way that sounds, actually. You know, it's definitely not a one-to-one, but I feel like for the most part, we have really captured the essence of the sound. Just as a recap, right? The frequency shifter going into the frequency booster, which then gets pitch shifted 2 octaves, which then goes into our amp. What we need to do now, we need to build out the rest of the track really quick with all the atmosphere and sound effects and stuff like that. So I just threw in here an impact that I use for basically everything. For the atmosphere, I kind of want something in a lower register to kind of fill out that middle octave of the whole song. So maybe some sort of piano thing. But this is the piano part. I'm gonna add some Valhalla shimmer to it. Let's check out what that sounds like in the mix now. It really adds a lot, the atmosphere does. Maybe with the remaining time that we have, we can go back and add some more nuance to these drums. Otherwise, I think we give this thing one final listen and we call that a wrap for the day. Alright guys, if you stuck around to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. Like I said before, if you have any suggestions on sounds from songs that we should do next, leave it down in the comment section and I will try to get to it for the next one. That's it for me today, guys. See you in the next one.